authority of president, we as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Liberia, rendering peace and security in Mali, in South Sudan, in other places around the world, it just speaks to the fact that, it's not about where you fall. It's about waking up from where you fall and forging ahead.
Sure.
Yesterday we were down. Today we are there giving helping hands to others who was giving all helping hands yesterday. Just yesterday we were crying for the Marine. Sometimes August 2003 for the Marine. I remember the first 11 men that arrived to the American embassy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember during the presidency of President Olusegun Obasanjo, we were crying on the forces from Nigeria to come here and deploy. Today we have been deployed in other countries. That is progress. That we call we call that vertical social mobility in the context of development. A movement down going up. The vertical axe, it comes from down, it go up. So it's a path for all Liberians. It's a path for the chief of staff of the armed forces of Liberia, General Prince Johnson, and Minister Zenga of the Ministry of Defense, and all men and women in uniform serving our country outside and inside the country. Abroad and within our territorial jurisdiction. I took so much pride, for those military families who are sacrificing for us. The president has not forgotten you. The fact that he has mentioned the services rendered by the Liberian military to the UN is pleased to what extent the president cherishes the service. The services that have been rendered by our men and women. No wonder why he built them a military hospital. He has equipped that military hospital to be on par with JFK and other hospitals around. That is what a commander-in-chief does when he is patriotic, when he's nationalistic. In that, I see nationalism. I see a strong sense of security and peace, because he said true development can only be enhanced, right, when there is security and peace. Development cannot go on when there is no security and peace. So, your studio is very beautiful when it is not secure, when there is no fence, when you do not have well-trained men to protect this facility. There will be a lot of intrusion and might frustrate your effort.
Surely.
So true peace and security can only be, true development can only be achieved when we have peace and security.
Now, serving in foreign countries, our troops serving in foreign countries, which the president mentioned during his speeches, his deliveries at the UN General Assembly. What does it show about our country's stance on solidarity?
Our country is extremely clear on solidarity. Matter of fact, the UN cannot certify your troop to render peace if all the background check are not done, if you do not meet all of the requirements under the UN protocol. The fact that Liberia is one of those countries, under the ambient, under the flag of the United Nations giving peace, it speaks to what extent Liberia has gained its peace in the Committee of Nations, in the context of regional, national, and international peacekeeping. So it's a pride for us. We have grown. We understand the concept and theory of solidarity. That's why as we do not have to be big. We do not have to have all of the military might and superiority to render
before
peace.
we contribute.
To contribute, you do not have to be like Russia to contribute. You do not have to have that absolute military advantage. It's about the willingness. If you have a little piece of bread today, you cannot share with your neighbor. There's no guarantee that we have a whole chunk of bread, you will share it. So the idea of being benevolent has nothing to do with riches. So in spite of our challenges as a country, our military may not be as equipped as like other militaries around the world, but it does not stop us from giving peace. The Bible tells us to do unto others as we have them done unto us. Sure. Yesterday, others came here and gave us peace. So consistent with that, we are giving others peace. I think that's what matters.
That's good.
Given Liberia youthful populations of more than 60%, my government initiated a youth rehabilitation and empowerment program, a socio-economic empowerment of disadvantaged youth project between 2019 and 2021, with the subsequent launch of a $13 million United States national fund drive for the rehabilitation and empowerment of at-risk youth in Liberia. We remain of the firm conviction that when empowered, our youth can be a positive force for good.
You listen to the president. He seems very, very committed to transforming the lives of the young people.
But even without the president saying that, aren't you aware? Look around the president, see his government, see his cabinet. Look at a person like me, Sabah. have been developed by this president. The president need not to go to the UN to tell you to what extent he believes in transforming youth. He does not have to go to the UN, but more so because he needs more support, because he needs to attract more resources and funding. I think he just mentioned that, to tell you to what extent he believes in youth development. Look at what happened in 1990. Look at the period of war. See the resources he put in the national team. See what he did to order the refugee camp. We were affected, the young people were affected during the war. He knows that 64% of our population is extremely youthful. That's why he told his lieutenant, Minister D. Zoga Wessing, to initiate the issue about the program on, exclusively on disadvantaged youth. We have to do with the social economic empowerment of disadvantaged youth project. And that project is in full swing today. And trust me, if you go at Vamuma, you see the rate of the disadvantaged youth on the street, they have reduced. We have to rehabilitate these young people, because for us to have a better life, they have to be productive. We cannot have them going astray, because most of these young people, after the war, most of them did not properly go through the process of DDR. Some of them still face the trauma from the war, right? There's some international trauma. Some of them, during the war, the parents were killed. Some of them killed their parents. Some of them involuntarily did that. They acted based, not on their own will. They were induced. Imagine a kid going into the war at age of 6, 7. That kid has no conscience. Sure. So whatever he did, and realizing at the age of maturity that he did this, he did that. So that trauma from the war still permeate in our corridor. So it's a social issue. Social issue and national issue. National issue sometimes become economic issue. So it is a social issue. It is social, it becomes national. When it is national, it places economic burden on society, because these people become vagabond. So as a responsible government who has a social contract with your people, your role is to ensure that they are rehabilitated. In the process of rehabilitation, it's not just about giving in, took on down. That is not sustainable. The sustainability of the young people of this country, it is clearly defined in better ensuring into the president's project towards enhancing the quality of disadvantaged youth. Now, mind you, youth is not just about disadvantage. His investment in young people is seen in his free education policy. That is investment in young people. His investment in young people and youthful development is not just in the payment of a year fee, it is in the payment of fees across the university so that people go to school free of charge. It's not into going to school free of charge. Is also into investment into the hospital, into maternity, right? Women born children and they are dying. Infant maternity rate has reduced because most of the people who born at the hospital, they are young people. It's not just that. Most of the people coming up with sicknesses and kidney issue are young people. So the president has ensured that GFK now has a dialysis center so that young people who have kidney issue will go there and do not have to travel out of the country. It's not just that. The president is ensuring that market structures are built around the country. Most of the people building these market structures are young people. That's youth development, youth empowerment. Not just that. The president is building proper homes around the country. These proper homes are exclusively contracted to Liberian people. They are Liberian contractor. More than 90% of those people doing all of the construction are young people. That's youth empowerment. It's not just that. The president is building roads. Most of these roads being built, young people are the one building these roads. Young people are the engineers. Young people are the beneficiary of this role. Young people are the one who are applying vehicle here and there. Look at these taxi drivers. Most of them are young people. So the president's agenda on young people cannot be compromised. The president's agenda on young people is not something to be said. It's something that is visible. It's something that you can see. It's something that I know. Look at a person like me, like I said, a boy from Deswa Street, growing up in the slum of Capital Bypass in Moroville, from all the way to there. Today I am a deputy in government. Look around me. Everybody you see, they are young people. He sent us to school. See what he's doing all around. So the president's agenda for young people is uncompromising. His statement at the UN, he said that not to show that he loves young people, because it is clear his life is all about youthful empowerment. But he needs more resources. He needs the world to know that in our country there is a growing social issue. It is an issue of insecurity, because if you have a country where the young people are disadvantaged, where they are vulnerable, where they have no front and no back, where they have no future, no past, no present, it is dangerous. You cannot have a civilized society, in sight, and then you have a lot of people who are deemed star and term disadvantaged youth, because the president was once seen as a disadvantaged youth. He knows what it means to be seen as disadvantaged. That's why he has calibrated, he has governed us, and he has directed all resources to ensuring that these young people are given the most decent care that they need.
Now, the president mentioned, highlighted the issue of the young people, the youth, especially the at-risk youth, the launch of the effort to transform their lives. He did mention that at the UN. Unlike, in the past, I know you've been following the history of and the activities of other, of former leaders, the sort of passion that the president speaks with, especially when it has to do with the younger people. Have you seen that before?
It's immeasurable. It's just immeasurable, and it has been consistent. Look, Sabo, you see, the water is always wet. It's simply water is always wet.
Mm-hmm.
The president is who he is. The president knows that about 90% of his supporters are young people. The president was a young man in a society like Liberia. He knows and understands the stereotype against young people. He knows what it means when the young youthful community is in power. He's quite aware. So the simpler way in which I can describe it is that the water is always wet. The president's consistency in catering to young people is immeasurable. And so sometimes it just makes me emotional to describe how the president is.
It can be compared, to previous.
I do not want to compare it with anybody. I want to compare the president with himself. I don't want to compare him with anybody because nobody can compare themselves with him. I want to compare the president with his character yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But all I've seen is consistency.
Okay, consistency. Let's hear from the president again.
Working together with the United Nations family, Liberia hereby commits to protect our planet, to promote peace, prevent conflicts, to ensure sustainable financing, and to boost partnership. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this commitment is reflected in the Purple Agenda for Prosperity and Development, which embodies the expressions of our shared determination to achieve peace, prosperity, national development, address extreme poverty, inequalities, regional disparities, infrastructure deficit, climate change, and equitable distribution of our national wealth.
Of our national wealth. What do you think the president was driving at there?
So he mentioned climate change, he mentioned the equitable distribution of our national resources and wealth. I don't know whether you're gonna later on play it where he talk about 64% below. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether you're gonna play or you want me to dive into that.
Yes, let's go there.
You want me to dive into that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where you were driving at, and then you're talking about protecting our planet, protecting our earth, and he talks about climate change. He also talked about Liberia committing to reducing the economy greenhouse gas emission by 64% below the projected business as usual by the year 2030. So that was where he was driving. He was driving at the point where today as a country, today as a globe, the environment plays a lot in terms of our economy. It plays a lot in terms of how economic drivers are determined. So last year he was at Glasgow, right? That statement he made, it was in following to what he said in Glasgow last year. Glasgow, it was a climate change conference in the UK called COP, the COP26. At that conference, he said he acknowledged the immense contribution that international community and the global environment facility is making, the GEF and whatever. He talks about the ecosystem restoration, and he talks about African country ensuring that a financial mechanism is established so that
during the last conference,
okay, so that countries that do more to protect our planet can receive more consistent with their own commitment. That's why you talk about international cooperation, meeting up to what you say, saying what you want to do and doing what you want to say. Because in 2010, right? In 2010, I just want to draw a parallel to what the president was saying. In 2010, in Cancun is a place in Mexico. At COP16, that was the 16th gathering of the conference of the party. At that Cancun meeting in Mexico, developed country, developed party jointly committed and decided to pledge 100 billion. Every year they say they're going to they commit 100 billion.
Developed country.
Okay. By 2020, that should have been achieved. And the intent of that was to ensure that they provide finances of at least 100 million every year towards the development goal of underdeveloped country, and so that it will also cost the NDC of this undeveloped country, so that undeveloped country will ensure that they do more to protect the planet. Since 2010, when this commitment were made, developed country has failed to meet up to that commitment. Out of the 100 billion pledge that were made, only 7 billion has been achieved since 2020. And so international community in developed country, they have fallen short of meeting up their requirement on the international instrument, on the pledges this made. Contrary to that, President Weah was saying, we as developing country, as least developed country, even though we have less, we do less to emit CO2. In fact, the entire Africa, which mostly fall under the least developed country bracket, we contribute less than 0.5% of the greenhouse gas emission. But most of the burn, the effect of climate change is felt.
We suffer it.
We suffer the burn. We do more to protect the earth. In fact, that's why he said we are committing 64%, right? 64%, it's not business as usual, meaning you say what you're doing, you do not do it. That is the business as usual term he was talking about. So he is not saying Liberia is committed towards ensuring that the economy-wide greenhouse gas emission was 64% below the projected business as usual. By 2020, it's going to be dealt with through unconditional greenhouse gas emission. The unconditional meaning there's no condition attached. Even though you say you will give your 100 billion, you haven't given that 100 billion. Regardless of whether you give the 100 billion or not, we are unconditionally going to ensure that we reach 64% below sea level of ensuring that greenhouse gas is
Does it say how that's going to happen?
The how is what we govern as in our NDC.
Okay.
And those people he was speaking to, they understand the NDC. The NDC is they are the core of the Paris Agreement. The NDC is that delivery mechanism of the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is that agreement where more than 191 countries around the world, they governed and committed themselves to ensuring that they limit warming to like 2 degrees Fahrenheit,
okay,
and well below 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit at pre-industrial level. So that is the commitment that Liberia has made. So honor our commitment of the NDC, which has been revised because the Paris Agreement calls for revision of your NDC once every 5 years.
Okay,
so
every 5
just
years.
last year, Liberia presented her NDC. The NDC is a big document. So he was just trying to dive into the NDC that he presented on behalf of his country. Like I said, the NDC is a nationally determined contribution. Every country has to nationally contribute. So Liberia, we are not contributing direct finances, but we are contributing our natural capital. The natural capital includes our forests, it includes our blue carbon, which has to do with the mangroves and everything. They are categorized into what we call the NDC. So the NDC, the UN is aware of the NDC. So he was speaking to an audience that is aware of what he's saying. So when he said that we are going to do this 65% well below, 64%, he was talking about the reduction of the national deforestation rate of 50% by the year 2030. He was also talking about the reduction of the emission of forest conversion below 40% at business as usual 2030. And then by that, we are talking about reforesting an average of 12,285 hectares to enhance our forest cover stock by the year 2030. So that is how. So when you go into the NDC, you will understand how. And of course, he's also talking about restoring 25% parity of degraded land by 2030. When you do all of these, that is how. How is that going to happen? Is by some of these things that are cataloged. He was speaking for 15 minutes. He could not go about all of these things. So he just said key word, and that key word suggests what he's talking about. So for us, from the ambient of climate change, we as climate change practitioners, scientists, and policymakers, we know what he meant. The president he was addressing knew what he meant. All of the colleagues on that table, they have presented their NDC. They know what he meant. And I saw people shaking their head. I saw people ensuring that country like Liberia, and then again that brings me to what he also said about the consistent and the coherent imbalance.
Okay.
Coherent imbalance. That could be oxymoron, right? Coherent imbalance into the financial flow of the market mechanism of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. That Article 6 of the Paris Agreement talks about the market and non-market mechanism. It talks about the sale of carbon. Now, he was trying to figure out some contradiction into what is happening. The developed country, they're already doing more to destroy. Then at the carbon market, at the carbon discussion, they want to determine the price of the carbon sale. He is also saying
at the detriment of
at the detriment,
this developed country.
You do not have the goods. You do not have the carbon advantage. You do not have the forest. we have all of the forests. We are meeting our commitment, right? So how can you be determining the price? So that when you talk about fairness, he talks about fairness, on the market. So that fairness, it was how he called on other African countries to have that synergy built among them, so that they speak in one voice, because we are the biggest protector of our planet. That's why he talks about protecting our planet. Liberia has about 43% of the remaining forest in the Upper Guinea region. So with that forest, that's immense natural capital. That's immense riches in the context of protecting and enhancing climate change. So the president's speech in that regard, it went down with us in the field of climate change.
Yes, sure.
And other climate practitioners around the world have started reaching out to us and commending us on the statement made by the president. Is a direct and clear, unambiguous statement. It's also ambitious for a least developed country like Liberia to be given such, a preposition and be recognizing such imbalance into the financial mechanism of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. And President Weah is gradually becoming a champion of Article 6. Not many African leaders talk about this article that has a lot of loopholes and a lot of accounting disadvantages against us, but advantages in favor of those people that are doing more to emit CO2, while we are doing more to avert the emission of CO2. So I think the president spoke extremely eloquently and excellently in that direction.
You're listening to the SMS Recorded on the OBC 99.9 and other frequencies across Liberia. We are looking deep into this speech delivered by His Excellency Dr. George Manneh Weah at the UNGA.
Liberia is expected to hold presidential and legislative elections in October 2023. The forthcoming election will be crucial to consolidating our democracy. In this regard, I wish to underscore my government's unwavering commitment to ensuring that the enabling environment continues to exist for the conduct of peaceful, free, fair, transparent, and inclusive elections. This is in keeping with my commitment to ensure that the democratic will of the Liberian people is respected at all times. In the run-up to the 2023 elections, it is incumbent upon all prospective candidates to avoid the incitement of violence and any other behavior that could deprive the Liberian people of the peaceful space that they need to freely exercise their franchise and freely express their political will in choosing their leaders. We must let the people decide, and then we must respect their decision. This is indeed the true essence of democracy.
You heard him renew his commitment to ensure that there's peaceful, transparent, credible elections ahead, come 2023.
I really don't like to talk politics. You call me over the weekend to come and disclose climate change. I thought everything would be climate change, but
No.
I see that we've dived into almost everything the president talked about. So, since I said space that is somehow political, even though I'm a technician, I'm just going to talk about politics a little bit. And to the clip you just played, Sabo, the president is. I like how he was very plain at that point. I like how he directly and indirectly spoke to those people who are inciting violence in our country. I like how he put himself on record before the UN and said we are going to election. I promise free, fair, and transparent election. Again, that speaks to consistency from the beginning of this conversation. He was talking about the tenets of democracy. He was talking about adherence to the people's power, the people's will, because the people are the true custodian of power. The people are the true custodian of authority. The president was simply saying, look, for those of you who making noise around you 7% people, wait for me, Alibaba Bus. I promise you free, fair, and transparent election. You need not to go and make fake video to incite violence in our country. And that statement was extremely necessary, especially at the point where people hire lobbyists to make a fake video to make our country appear unstable. You cannot undermine the peace and stability of this country. You cannot undermine the gains, the democratic gain we've made in this country. We are keeping peace out there. When you start making video of violence, of insecurity and insurrection to incite people, when we are keeping peace out there, it makes people to question our troop out there. It makes them very vulnerable.
Sure.
So when the president talks about free, fair, and transparent election and then accepting the will of the people, let's look at the sincerity of that. This president 2005, even though going to the election, it was a very challenging election. Record has it that he won the election, and because he's a lover of peace, he's a patriot in an indicative move, a constant patriot in stand-up position. He accepted the result, even though he was robbed of his presidential entitlement. He allowed other people to benefit political royalty at his detriment. He went away and he did not hesitate. There was no insecurity into this country. Sure. He only needed to say, I reject this result, and you saw how people were waiting. People had the violence, people had appetite for violence back then in 2005. But President, we are singularly and simply put it that for the sake of peace, he accepted the result. In 2011, as opposition, he led his Congress for Democratic Change as a vice tenor bearer. Our country again was robbed of our political entitlement. Results were flying here and there. The helicopter was catching ballot boxes here and there. The president, in fact, not just that, when we protested the election result, we were to be heard. It was our democratic right to protest, to go against the result and ask for redress. The government then did not have the appetite and the will to listen to us. What they did, they opened live bullet at our citizens and they died at the party headquarters. And November 7 became a bloody November 7, that bloody Monday. What happened? There was no insurrection. The president by then could have resisted. No, he accepted the result. He boycotted the election peacefully and peaceably. Peacefully and peaceably. There's a difference between peaceful and peaceably, right? So he accepted the result and moved on. Imagine if it were the opposition of today. So the president was simply saying, look at my track record. So if this president does not believe in peace and stability and tranquility, we will not be where we are. President Weah has always been around for peace. During the donor conference in UN, during the time of Judith Bryant, President Weah was one of the first person that was there because he wanted to donate and ensure that peace and prosperity flow in our country. So the president has always been a character who believes in peace. That is why he served as the UN Kuwait ambassador. The UNICEF will not name him as a Kuwait ambassador. He disgarmented himself of all of his wealth and riches during the time of gunfire. He came to Liberia and disarmed the young people here. He did it during the time of Model and law. That is how this president has always lived. His life is marked by consistency. So the idea that people want to project that today the president, a certain president, he's in line with so-called Al-Qaeda. Why must you endanger our country? Liberia have had no link with any sort of terrorism. Not since the foundation of our nation. No, we've always been a friend to America. We've always adhered to the good tenets of democracy. We've always honored the concept of peace. And that is what the president was just saying. Now, so the opposition out there, instead of installing fear in people and inciting violence, get prepared for election. That's what the president was just saying. And the president is quite aware. He's extremely confident that he will beat all of his opponents. In fact, there is no opponent. You cannot go to an election with a 37%. You think you can do well.
Now, so with the commitment made by the president before the UN, before the United Nations, does that in any way dismiss the video, and does it also give relief to the opposition bloc that there will be peaceful and transparent elections?
Look, that video, I don't want to dignify the video. In that video, it was alleged that the international community has elected that this out of terrorism and barbaric behavior, they are being formulated by the government of today, right? The international community came out and said, no, we are not aware of anything. So the video was saying international community said no. So the international community itself is aware, even before the president could talk, that they distance themselves from that and they condemn it, they call for investigation. So there's no source. Today, EFBC, whatever I say, whatever you say, people can quote us because this is a credible platform. Anybody can go on YouTube in disguise, on a studio garment and say whatever they want to say. If any act of such nature is in a corridor. It will not just be by one woman who uses computer manipulated voice to give that statement. It will be authentic by a reliable source like CNN, like EBC, like BBC. So that tape is dead on arrival. And those people who pay the money, you saw them running around radio stations saying we should speak to the authenticity of the video. Now you say the UN, the international community, they are letting and they are afraid that this is happening. The international community that you accuse said no, nothing as such is happening. So what they had to quote nothing. So the president's statement was just to reinforce his commitment to peace, was to tell the UN that your efforts in my country, Liberia is one of the first success story of the UN. Of all the places the UN has gone to keep peace, Liberia is one of those first countries that UN they came here, they kept the peace, and the peace has been sustained for the first time in the country since 1990. This is the first time that the military and security of our country is in the hands of a certain government 5 years in a row. Since President Weah took office,
and there has been no instability.
There has been no instability. There has been no chaos. Protesters have been given food. Protesters have been given a chance to protest. They have been given a chance for their voices to be heard. Elections were held. Costly elections were held. In most of other countries that have been a consistent stronghold of the CDC, we were defeated yet twice by the very opposition. The president did not manipulate the results. We saw when the president said a Euro will not win election and a Dillon will not win election. Dillon won. You saw what happened in District 15. It was a tense election. Even though the president wanted that election very well because every politician would like to win, we were defeated in most of the 2 times by a political non-entity like Dillon, a nobody. He won us here out of some sympathy and out of some manipulation. So they try to bring this video because these are things that they used to win. The people now are quite aware. So we went by election all around the country where we were defeated in Grand Basso. We were defeated in Kema. We were defeated in other strategic county, like Magibi, right? Those were counties in which we were defeated. The president did not manipulate those results. Even those results were very costly. It speaks to the president's adherence of the rules of democracy and the tenets of democracy. So the president's statement on peace and security, on transparent election is empirical because for us to judge your future, we must look at your present and your past. The president past and present have been consistent with the norms, the tenets and practices of democracy.
Okay, let's take this final tip quickly.
As Liberia Female in Chief, women empowerment and the promotion of gender equality remain key priorities of my government. Women do not only comprise almost half of our country's population, but they also play. I am pleased to report that the IMF latest appraisal of the ongoing program it has with Liberia is very positive. It shows that inflation rates have been significantly reduced. There are now better prospects for economic growth compared to previous years in spite of the negative effects of COVID-19. Our effort at instituting new policy measures to fight grabs were also particularly commended in the report, along with our adherence, prudent fiscal management.
Okay, so
the first part there he talks about feminine in chief, and then the last part he talks about economic growth. So the first part, I'm not a gender specialist, but of course I'm a librarian of common sense. I'm seeing and hearing what the president does. I look in his cabinet. The last time I checked, the gender minister is a female. The last time I checked, the health minister is a female. The minister of commerce is a female. The deputy bank governor at the central bank, Mana Humani, is a female. And the last time I checked at NAFAD, it's a female there. FPRC is a female. And everywhere, you see female.
Yeah,
even LBS, we see female everywhere. So, as female chief, I don't want to go to the deputy and the assistant minister. There are multiple positions that have been occupied by female. So you see, and as female in chief, the president has done exceedingly well to ensure gender equity and gender equality is dealt with in it. He also talks about, the ratification of regional and international instruments to address gender and gender inequality, which are being carried out as a result of social culture and perception, practices and stereotype against women. And of course, he wants to go. He wants to go against male dominance against a female counterpart. These are all righteous statement and commitment made by the president. These are not just statements, but these are all practical commitment, that have been demonstrated by him. I did not even mention GSA, Mirabel. She's a female. So you see, the president has been consistent with his quest to empower female. You see, and of course, you see the first lady is having a program. She's supporting menstrual health. For female hygiene, female menstrual health and hygiene. So the president is not just a female in chief, but he also has a wife who is helping him to make this happen. So that was just clear and candid. It's almost like saying, I'm in blue suit like you today. So you're in blue suit. It's clear like you're in blue suit. It's just a matter of saying it. And that cannot be questioned. So the president has demonstrated consistently that he is a feminine in chief. He has authored and demonstrated zero tolerance against rape. He has ensured that DNA machines come in the country so that when people are involved into alleged rape, so that they do the DNA and determine whether specimens fall in the female and specimens from the male are consistent with the action. And that has somehow addressed the issue about investigation, because many a time the Ministry of Justice and the police have complained that when this person is alleged to rape, we have been challenged in terms of really proving that this person is the person who did the rape. So the DNA machines, they are in country. So you see, he has also demonstrated he's a family in chief to reduce the rape against women, and people are now having safe delivery. There is the unit at the Ministry of Health that is consistently dealing with this. So there are many male wives around the country. So when he talks about family in chief, it's not just about rape. It's also about women empowerment. You see the market structure in built all around the country. Most of the market women, they are women who have been empowered by his gesture and by his insightful leadership. So of course he is a feminine in chief by virtue of what he has done for the women and the gender community. And of course he is a proponent of the 30% women empowerment into the house. So you see, so the president has continuously demonstrated that he is a feminine in chief, not just by words but by deeds, action and pragmatism.
Okay.
On the issue about the economy,
the IMF, I praise him.
So again, I'm not an economist. I am a practical thinker in standard position, a man of ideas and common sense thinker. And I like reading as well. I read the IMF report, the Standard Credit Facility arrangement, which has been concluded, and when you read that very, very candidly, or published on August 24, the IMF talk about the deepening economic growth at about 3.7% this year, and then also say Liberia has a potential of growing at about 5% annually, which is above average and consistent with what was initially projected and with other countries around here. And then that report also talk about the quantitative program performance, that was quite stronger while they implemented the structural reform agenda that incurs a delay, and they talk about the adoption of the anti-corruption legislation and the LCC. So these are all statements that speaks to what the way of the presidency. The LCC was established, it had no prosecutory authority and power. Now that has been reinforced, and that was captured on the IMF report. So the president was telling his colleague that the issue of corruption that people may be hearing is
being handled.
It's just being handled because he cannot alter what the IMF say. He cannot influence what the IMF say. The IMF say what is factual, what is empirical, and that is based on the intrinsic macroeconomic stability that has been achieved through stronger fiscal sustainable practices enhanced by the Ministry of Finance, Development and Planning under the dynamic leadership of President George Manneh. These are all statements, these are all facts that you can just go on the IMF website and see. So the president did not utter what is not in existence. No, he did not utter the issue about the stability of the U.S. rate. You saw for almost 2 years now, the U.S. rate has been very consistent. The Liberian dollar has been appreciated. There's nothing to manipulate about that. These are all reality. These are all facts. These are all evidential-based facts. The quantitative and qualitative data are available for your rehearsal if you haven't seen them. So the essence of going to the UN is to review and to report to the UN on your undertaking,
on the
progress you've made. So everything said by the president, they can be fact-checked. They were not elusive, they were not delusional, they were not false stemming from the sky. These are all practical reality and challenges. He talks about those challenges and his willingness to work with those challenges. So, like I said from the beginning of this conversation, the president's statement is an A+, and even the opposition have admitted Those critics, because sometimes there's no way to lie. Sometimes your conscience can fight you. And ingratitude to your conscience is a crime. Sometimes if you want to lie, your conscience can fight you. And you saw the opposition, all of them have even said the president's statement was homo, it was sincere, it was candid, it was pragmatic, and it was excellently presented on behalf of the Liberian people. And we are proud of the President Weah. We say thank you for your brilliant and excellent speech. And because of that excellent speech, and because of the work you've done consistently and continuously, and because of your robust agenda for prosperity and development, the Liberian people today they are already paying their own way going at the RIA to welcome the President from the UN General Assembly. We are going to tell you thank you for making our case to the international community.
Yes, Randolph Dogbayu, he's been my guest on the SMS, trying to look into the speech delivered by His Excellency Dr. George Manneh Weah at the UNDG. Now it's your turn now to interact with us at 0776 540-987, or better still 0880-514-096. We take calls for 50 minutes, and then we allow our second guest to come in quickly. 0776 540-987. We take this first call on the line. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, the Deputy Executive Director at the EPA, Ronald W. My name is Alan Bruce, and I call you from Central Monrovia this morning.
Just go right ahead.
Thank you. Let me say thank you to every leader, the President Ronald W. for the brilliant output this morning. He cataloged the entire President's speech, and it is quite amazing listening to him this morning. And Liberia in their mass, just to continue, Liberia in their mass, they are assembled at the Royal International Airport. Paratroopers of the Blue Revolutions and Liberian conscious-minded Liberians who believe that this president has done well. They will be assembling this morning. They are assembling this morning at the Royal International Airport to receive His Excellency President George Manneh, the Province of Weah, and his delegates from the UN. And I would just want to say thank you so much for the brilliant output this morning, Leader Ronald Dubali.
Okay, many thanks. Let's take this call on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Sobod. And good morning to the conscious-minded Liberian.
Let's hear from you quickly.
My name is Abraham Political Moderator Setu, and I call from the headquarters of the Veterans Bureau on the most of the Bagbagogbe Avenue this morning. Also, let me appreciate this morning for inviting the expert and Honorable Ronald Dubali. In the score from one settlement to another, make it simple. But EFP is one of the bigger platforms, and ordinary people listen to this station because they are credible with information. And we say kudos to Honorable Ronald Dubali. We understand the President State of Nigeria and the UN General Assembly. Let me say welcome back home, His Excellency President George Manneh Weah. He's still loved by your people. Let me tell the Liberian people, do not be carried about fake information. He's our president. By voting President George Manneh Weah 2017 was not a mistake, but going to do the right thing for the Liberian people. To get a positive mindset, we can make my Liberian people.
Many thanks. Let's take this call on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to the environmental expert on Ronald Dubali, the young people representatives.
Okay.
This is Hilton Mulajedo. I like the Popo defender, and properly I join you from a Popo corner looking at this morning, where men and women are warming up to receive their president. It's Excellency Dr. George Manneh Weah. Stop us. There's nothing that Dubali will say again because he has said it all. President Weah was as eloquent, the elucidations were as 99.9%, and it is well received by almost all Liberians to the extent those from the opposition, even, I don't want to call him, but Henry Petro, who is seen to be a major critic, after President Weah has spoken, what we saw on a Facebook page where the president spoke eloquently in the interest of the Liberian people, but we look up for implementation. It tells you that President Weah is after a re-election is matters. Most especially when they emphasis to that the political prisoner in our country. And it is blaming all of the prison center in Liberia, there is no political prisoner. It behooves me for a president to call upon a police that we should uphold the tenets of democracy. If your town finishes, leave the people country because they elected you for specific tenures. Thank you, Honorable W, and we applaud you for the work you do at EPA, like Professor Winston Tucker, I will call you the chief technician, and you do it.
Okay, you made your point over there. Let's take this call on the line. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. good morning to my own young brother, Ronald Dobayo, William Jeffy Wulu, and thank ever so much for the analysis. And he said it all the speech that the president gave in the U.S., it was in case because there is nothing that is lie. Other president go to America and he will be lying all around. For everything that happened in America, this is what the president presents. Let me just thank you ever so much.
Okay, many thanks. Let's take this call on the line also. Good morning.
Good morning, Sabo.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
And let me extend my morning greetings to Honorable Ronald Dobayo. My name is Mark Doko, and I joined the conversation from the Office of the Intellectual Alliance and on the Branch Freeway. But I'm appreciating for the analysis made for the president's speech at UNGA 77. You know, the president was passionate and eloquent as he was. The president spoke about trending national issues and global issues that affects our war and country. The president was magnanimous when he said upholding the essence or tenets of democracy, calling on the opposition community that let's go to 2023 election with a true representation of politics, of fake news. Let's go to the ballot box. If you can beat me there, let's go to the ballot box and try. But you should not come out with fake videos. That shows the president has a true essence of peace made for democracy. The president has proven to the world that since his ascendancy, democracies honor his leadership, has transformed, has transmogrified, and have gotten new dynamics. Evidence of the elections that have occurred under his regime. In 2020, when we had by-elections here, it was won by opposition. We did not go to the street as a citizen. In 2020, when all of these various political institutions won certain portions of the election in our bureau, we did not hesitate or congratulated them as a ruling establishment.
Okay.
That is a true essence of democracy. And we'd like to applaud the president for representing us adequately. And we will assemble today at the Rabo International Airport to welcome our president. Thank you, Rabo.
Many thanks. Let's take this call on the line. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Yeah, this is the Godstem T. William, the proud revolutionary son of Maryland County, and I join you from you and Jarvis Spec.
Let's hear from you.
Yeah, the manifestation to be on your unique platform. I mean, the still guess, I mean, no need to be monotonous because he said it all. Simpson will almost be like saying what he said because I beat that because the information went well. But the one thing I capture and make people know that video, even the 6-year-old child who would say that video is fake. First of all, no sound person want to bring embarrassment to themselves. That's the first thing to establish. And look at the man in question. Looking at the struggle he went through to bring peace in the country. Do you think President Weah get any mind to? There's a good man that even when he defeated you honorably leave that seat. That's the first thing to establish. But God forbid that we like people go out those days when politicians use oil against our own betterment. That was always too present. Go out those days. Even though the brother is going to be a mess, but with the free tuition of President bro, I mean, many of us are graduating from Vera University, go to Vera High School, and what have you. So we are seeing that we are refined. Young people of those days, they're not young people of these days. So they don't understand our point five.
Okay, you made your point already. Let's take this call on the line. Good morning. Good morning.
So, how you doing?
I'm okay. Quickly, go right ahead.
Steven Zoran, I call from Zuru Westgate.
Let's hear from you.
Let me commend my brother in studio, Mr. Dobayo, for his deliberation. There are a few things he said catalog, and I want to inject my input. And that is to say, he talks about we having the resources. That's why we are contributing to the world instead of capital. That one aspect. He talk about countries in the world that do not produce the resources and they want to determine the sale price. Another thing he said, the president spoke about fair play when it comes to distribution of the country's wealth. Now, my question to him is this. Is the world going to understand what the president is saying, but not then squarely telling them that my country is producing this percentage to the world? And I'm asking the country or the world to help me with a particular percentage so that it will enable me to carry on my work by just saying,
the world should, act on fair play. That's what I want to ask you.
Okay, let me take the last caller quickly. Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning. Yes. Go right ahead quickly.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. And Mr. Pleasant, good morning to listeners following the conversation. I am Emmanuel P. Kunuti, and I call you from the office of the International Alliance of Liberia along the Japan's Freeway. Well, sir, I'd like to appreciate your care so kindly for the brilliant deliberation this morning. Basically, I followed the speech delivered by the president, and I think the president spoke as passionately as he was eloquent, most especially when he called the war attention to developing countries. I think he made a case not only for Liberia alone, but he made a case of Africa and the rest of the world. And also, I was touched when the president explained to the world the democratic credential of his government. And it is unimaginable to look in Africa that our leadership will be in power for close to 5 years and there is no political prisoner in such a country. I think it is laudable.
Okay. It is laudable. You made your point already. Let's go back to our studio guests
So-
to respond quickly.
To my dear supporter from Swaju, just to make you understand this a bit in terms of fairness, the president was talking about. I gave a retrospect from his statement in Glasgow, and let me be exact. He said, as a quote, he said, "We who are the richest in terms of forest resources and biodiversity are also the poorest in terms of socio-economic development." He said, "We who are the lowest emitter of harmful greenhouse gases, we are also the bearer of the brunt of the impact of climate change, and we benefit the least." He said, "We who maintain and protect the largest remaining tract of forest reserve receive the lowest payment in terms of the ecosystem services we provide." Because of that, he proposed that the African carbon trade mechanism on the continent be formed to foster economic growth and advocate for Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. In his statement of reason, it was just in furtherance to that statement he made. Just the consistency, and he's right. We do more. We have the biggest forest, but we are the poorest. That is a paradox. The president is only trying to alert that there is a paradox and cause on Africans to build a synergy to ensure that the issue about disparity and imbalances are dealt with.
Okay, quickly, your parting comments.
So in my parting company, what I can say is that thanks to the president for adequately representing us, thanks to him for talking about the global challenges, COVID, and the issue about global security and peace. Thanks to the president for talking about the IMF appraisal, talking about the economic growth that has been achieved, and talk about the 3.7% growth and the strong level of potential in terms of Liberia ability to growth that has been talked about by the IMF. Thanks to him for denouncing Ukraine war and standing on the side of democracy and tranquility and standing with the people of Ukraine. Thanks to him for talking about our plight as least developed country and the need for us to benefit from the context of social economic development, youth empowerment, the social economic empowerment of disadvantaged youth. It was something he talked about. Thanks to him for women empowerment, for being feminist in chief, for highlighting the issue of climate change, for his democratic gain, and for highlighting our troop serving.
Many thanks to
the president, and we urge everyone to assemble today to go meet the president.
Many thanks, Mr. Randolph Ndubayo. He's been around making us to understand some of the issues raised by His Excellency during his speech and at the UNGA. Many thanks. We really appreciate your time this